people. And if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to a very special episode of Botched and Chair Shots. I am your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray. And joining us tonight, everybody, it's everybody's favorite NWA referee. He has been on Botched and Chair Shots more than a couple times now. It's our boy, Jarrod Fritz. Jarrod, how are you, brother?
Oh, what's up, Will? Thank you so much for having me on again. It's been awesome.
I'm excited for this conversation specifically because of when we dive into it, I think everybody will see why. But I think your specific expertise in the business is going to come in handy here in a minute. So joining us,
so.
It absolutely will. I know you, and I know how smart you are. Trust me, it's going to work. Joining us, as always, to the top right of the screen, it's everybody's favorite Ginger Ninja. It's our boy Jax. Oh, Jax, how are you? You're muted, Bubba.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just happy to be here.
As always, Jax is happy to be here. And perched upon her iron throne in the Boss Bitch's corner is the Beyonce to my Hova, the Bonnie to my Clyde. She is the brains behind Rivet City Radio. It is the Boss Bitch, Al. Al, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Before we start, Jarrod, I think you've answered this question before. AJ immediately out of the rip wants to know, is a hot dog a sandwich?
It's between two pieces of bread, so I mean, why not, right?
Absolutely. See, that's the
There
point. Asking the hard questions. But every time we do this, we always start live, and I always ask, what has you pissed off for greatness? In the world of pro wrestling, it could be good, bad, indifferent, somebody's gear, a match, a finish, anything. Being the guest, I'm going to let you go first, or you can cede to Al or Jax, either way. But Jarrod, what has you pissed off for greatness this week in pro wrestling, sir?
Well, let me preface this by the fact that I hardly ever really truly get pissed off. If something bothers me, I just, whatever, I don't give a shit, really. I ain't got no time for that. But I think overall, just seeing the, and we could say, you know, what's happening today in the world of fans, just not really being fans anymore. Everybody wants to be a booker. Everybody wants to put in their 2 cents. And, you know, even when I was a kid and we would watch wrestling and everything, yeah, we'd be upset about finishes or we wish that something else would happen, but you would still be a fan and you just watch it for the pure entertainment of it. And that's what we in the business like to do, is we want to entertain you. And if we constantly feel like all we're doing is pissing you off or letting you down or whatever, like that doesn't give us a lot to kind of work for. So, you know, I mean, everybody has their right to have their opinion. Please do. That's cool. But just be a fan. Like, enjoy it. Simple as that.
I can agree to that 1,000%. Sometimes we have to remember at the core of why we do, you know, if the old homage of if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That should definitely apply to one's hobbies in their everyday life. If you get so upset and angry about something that at the core of it is genuinely just here for your raw, pure entertainment and to be happy and enjoy it. And if you get that passionate about it, you almost lose the core of what it's supposed to be, you know? So I completely agree. I'll tag team right behind you with mine this week. Mine is wrestling fans with all the releases in WWE. It doesn't matter if you like somebody or dislike somebody. These people are real people. You know, over the last few years, the relationships that I've been able to develop inside the business of pro wrestling have allowed me to see that, like, behind, you know, pulling that curtain back, so to speak. These are still real people on the inside. So I understand, however, you might not like a person's character on the television or the person they are in the ring. They're still a real person in real life. And these people are losing their jobs, and some of them aren't sure what their next step is. So I kind of piggybacking off of you, like, wrestling fans need to just sit back and enjoy it and not necessarily like take everything quite so seriously, I guess is the best way to put it.
Agreed.
Al, Jax, what do you got for us?
Jax, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
I'm ready to shock the system tonight. Because I actually have 2 things that I'm actually it's got me grateful for it. Eddie Kingston is my new Ring of Honor World Champion.
Hell yeah.
And this is going to sound, I know I've talked, I'm not the biggest fan of him, But congratulations to the Young Bucks and Hangman. He's thrown in Mogul Embassy. I really enjoyed the past 5 hours of AEW this week.
That's hilarious to me because I know what Al's pissed off for greatness is. So, Al, what has you pissed off for greatness in pro wrestling?
Jax, I'm gonna rain on your parade a little bit.
Oh, Jesus. Bring it on.
While I love Eddie Kingston and there are the Young Bucks, I wish that the Ring of Honor titles and also the NXT titles were on talent from those divisions and not people from other rosters, because I feel like they're like, especially in AEW, I think it's like only the women's titles are on like full-time Ring of Honor wrestlers, and I don't know, I just feel like it's taking away from building up. Like I understand like it'll maybe help get some eyes on Ring of Honor, like them being over there, but I don't know, I feel like it takes away some of that shine that could be given to like the Ring of Honor talent.
Oh, I understand, and I have to agree with you, and I hope Eddie's not going to. I've always wanted Ring of Honor to be its own separate thing, and I think Tony Khan's integrated it too much. But I'm still excited for Eddie Kingston winning, and you're not going to pop my bubble.
I love Eddie Kingston.
I love Eddie Kingston. Don't get me wrong. Like that, he deserves to be a champion, but like, you know,
should be on someone like Mark Briscoe.
I think that Eddie being a good pick, and I like the build naturally built in with the New Japan Strong title being there as well, because AEW and New Japan already have such a good relationship building into Wrestle Dream and all of that. Like those are the kind of stories they say tell themselves, like, so to speak, like they almost write themselves for you. And I love Eddie Kingston finally getting a world title. So I'm here for that.
You know, Eddie's one of those guys, you know, I've been fortunate enough to work with him. He's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met in my life. He's never upset at anybody. He might be pissed off about situations, but he's never upset with like anybody. He freaking loves everybody. But I can honestly say that Eddie Kingston is a Roddy Piper. He doesn't need to have a title for being Eddie Kingston. Now, with him having the title, it's awesome. It's great. You know, you like to see more people see the capability of Eddie and everything like that. And I agree, you know, it's confusing. Like, is Ring of Honor and NXT to AEW? Are they their own separate entity? Because it's been spoken about like on both sides of it. So it's a little bit confusing. But I can see from a business standpoint where it is trying to kind of cross brand and bring eyes to it and everything. And you're seeing opportunities, you know, like the Workhorsemen just went against FTR. And they're a great tag team. I've had the fortunate ability to work with them multiple times over. Anthony Henry and JD Drake are some of the most talented wrestlers I've ever seen and ever worked with in my life. And now the universe knows how good they are. And I saw a lot of backlash of like, who the hell are these jobber guys? And I'm like, well, first off, they're not jobber guys. And secondly, it's just a great way it's no longer enhancement talent. If anything, it's enhancing one another, not just one side. So like, it's good to see stuff like that happen.
The Outrunners, another perfect example of that.
Absolutely.
Great, absolute brilliant talent in the ring, young, hungry wrestlers ready to go, and them finally getting a shot. It was one of those like right time, right moments. You know what I mean? Like it was only a matter of time where the right person saw what they could do. So
absolutely.
Completely agree with that. This is the fun part. We're going to throw a little wrench in the curve. We're going to jump straight into the meat and potatoes of the conversation before we go into news and rumors, because Jarrod's time is valuable. And so when we ready to jump into that, Al, I know that you're going to fall into the producer's chair. Is there anything we're going to start into the conversation first being kind of like the role of a referee and stuff like that? Is there anything you wanted to ask Jarrod before you bow out about the roles of a referee in a match?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I was not prepared for that.
Put you on the spot before you. I know you're going to go backstage and produce for us, but I wanted to see if you had anything to ask before me and Jax take over the ride.
Not at this current moment. If I do think of something, I will just hop right back in.
Cop it.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Al. We will see you on the other side.
Bye.
All right, gentlemen. So this conversation for me was, it's been a couple weeks in the running because I messaged Jarrod about this originally, probably a month ago or 2 months ago now, where I was like, hey, I want to have this conversation. I want you to be a part of it. And then between the two of us and scheduling conflicts and everything, it was, we finally got it down. But before we dive into the kind of that Mount Rushmore of all-time referees, I wanted to have the base conversation with you, Jarrod. And I want to kind of start it. And this is going to be a loaded question because there's the entire episode could be about this question. But if you can give me kind of the too long didn't read version of it, like, what do you think a referee means in a wrestling match? And like I said, that's a huge question to ask.
It absolutely is. So we're the authority. We're the narrator. We're the safety officer. We are the director. We are in charge of just about everything that goes on in the ring. Now the wrestlers do what they're supposed to do. And let me pull back for just a second here. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Okay. As I was trained by Bob Keller here in South Carolina, that was the first thing that was told to me is your responsibility is the safety, whether it's a work or a shoot, of everybody inside that ring. Point blank, period. Doesn't matter. So that also helps direct some of the ways that I react and some of my facial expressions and how I handle the audience, how I handle the workers. But we're also the narrator. You know, you should have good storytellers. Wrestling is all about storytelling. You should have a good baby face. You should have a good heel. You should have two good baby faces, two good heels. Doesn't matter the style of match. You should have people in there being able to create a story for the audience to get into. Now, sometimes that gets a little bit lost, and that's where the referee can come in and direct people's attention to certain things and react in a certain way to get those people to go, oh, you know, we all know that Vince McMahon killed kayfabe a long, long time ago, right? We're not trying to trick anybody anymore. We're not trying to say, hey, this is real. But what we're trying to do is to get people to question, I thought this was a work. You know, and if I can get you at any point in a match to go, oh, like, let me do a double check on that, you know, that means a lot to me. That's my pop right there, is when I can get the people go, if I can hear somebody in the crowd go, whoa, you know, like that's what matters to me. And so usually when I'm working with people, if they're calling for any type of falsies throughout the match, you know, sometimes you can have a match with a whole bunch of falsies. Sometimes you can have just a couple. I'm like, I need you to tell me what the crowd needs to know is the big ones, you know, and I will react much heavier on those so it doesn't diminish everything else that happens prior to that. That was long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, it was perfect. There's no such thing here. We're talkers. Bringing up the safety, AJ in the chat was real quick to bring up the John Moxley spot, and I know a lot of times it's one of those in the place, in that moment, in the match kind of things with pro wrestling where you can't really go anything more than here's what I may have done in that situation. But from a referee's perspective, who's been there for the big matches, how would you have approached that situation had that been you standing in that ring in that moment for such a scary spot like what happened with Moxley and Fenix on Wednesday night?
So in looking at that, seeing the referee's position prior to the actual move itself, I would have put myself in a better place knowing the type of move that it was, just so that I can see what's happening, because I don't think that he could have seen from where he was at fully the impact of what it was, because he was on the backside of Fenix, so therefore Moxley's head was covered. So I don't know if he had that. Now, however, that being said, if you've got your production truck in there, they've got almost every single angle. They could have been in his ear being like, check to make sure that he's okay. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't tell you anything. However, what gets me is everything that I was ever taught. You swing your arm, and it's the wrestler's responsibility to kick out. If they don't kick out, that's it. If Moxley had a concussion, if he had any type of vertebral damage whatsoever, and he got picked back up and did it again, that could be life-ending right there, point blank, period. So I would have taken all the heat and I would have counted 3, call for the bell, and if I get my ass reamed in the back, I get my ass reamed in the back. I don't care. It's the safety, because we're a family. Like, me and the wrestlers and everybody that works in the promotion that I work for, any show that I'm at, we're a family. You know, those are my brothers and my sisters out there, and I'm going to take care of them. I don't care. I'll take the heat for it later. Point blank and period. So that's kind of my look on it. I felt that it was reckless on, you know, and it's not just all on the referee too. You know, like, both of the wrestlers should have had a say in it. The production truck should have had a say in it. There should have been something that could have been a little bit more safer for that incident itself. But things happen.
Jax, you got anything before I throw my next question in?
Oh, I do have. I have that big one that I could think of, and this is what made me change looking at referees different. Bryce Remsburg did a Invisible Man versus Invisible Man match in GCW. It kept me entertained just by being the referee of this match. What as a referee, I don't know if I'm going to word this right though.
It's kind of like, I think what he's trying to ask is like The Miz the other night when The Miz did the no John Cena thing, like how well The Miz sold it, how well the cameraman sold it, how well everything was done without there actually being a John Cena. He's looking at it from, I think, not to step on toes, tell me if I'm wrong, Jax. He's looking at it from the perspective of a well-rounded referee that could call a match without having 2 people in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. I got you, Bubba.
So just like shadow boxing for boxers, and just like any other anticipatory ideas that you may have, right? Like, we're always, as we're trained, you know, I've been at training where we're like, okay, you're gonna stand in and you're gonna get beat by the Invisible Man. Okay, so if you're working as a wrestler, so as a referee, like, we can anticipate like what we would be seeing, you know. So in his mind, he's probably calling a whole entire match in his head, and he's just reacting as he does react.
Oh, so, it made me a believer. And like I was like, so they do, like, at that point, I looked at a referee as more of a storyteller than I did, because up until that point, I never really paid attention to the refs. Like, I knew they were there for the rules, and like, but when I got to watch Bryce Remsburg tell a story as a referee, I look at y'all totally different. I'm thinking that they're just as integral in this storytelling as the wrestlers, if not more, because they, like, the facial expressions, like the shock facial expressions with like false finishes, they get me every time. It's like, dude, shit, I don't know. Like, was he actually supposed to kick out?
You know, and the funny thing is it's a very thin veil, right? Because the old school way of thinking is that the referee should never be seen. You know, Vince McMahon went as far as to take the names away from all the referees because some referee got too much attention, and we're not supposed to have attention, right? That's the thing, is like, I never want to be in a match, and I never want to have the crowd chanting for me or reacting to me per se. I want them to react to the match. So yes, you have to react. Yes, you have to have your facial expressions, and yes, you have to help tell the story, but you also have to grade it, and you have to figure out where that safe zone is so that you're not taken away from anything. Because I've been in the ring on certain indie shows where the crowd is heckling me more than they're heckling the people in the ring. And what does that tell me? I'm doing my job way better than they're doing their job. You see what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. And as a referee, I'll encourage people. I'll be like, guys, they're on me, not on you. You guys have to get the crowd back, you know? So director aspect there. Director hat, I guess.
Man of many hats.
So
try to be.
When you talk about some of the referees that had, you know, just the say almost as big a pop or bigger than some of the talent, I'm sure that the three of us will have a couple of the guys on our list. But my final question before we dive into our list is, you've had an opportunity to be in the ring and hold the 10 pounds of gold over your head, the Burke over your head. You've been in GCW and you've had some great matches there. But just recently at 75, you were a part of a historic match in a sense because it was Camille versus Paige. And when Kinsey Page won that title, Camille had that historic run of over 800 days. What was the feel in the arena like that night when Kinsey got the belt?
So let me clarify. I was not in that match.
Were you not?
No, I was not, because so I might get a little emotional here. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Camille and I actually grew up on the indies together. We did a lot of independent shows and everything. And I just happened to be fortunate enough to officiate the match that she won the Burke. And I jokingly, because she always wanted me to be a ref because I'm the shortest referee there and it makes her look bigger, right? Little accoutrements. And plus, you know, we've grown up together and we've done this thing together. And I always made the joke with her. I was like, I can't be in the match where you lose it. I can't. I just can't, you know. And oddly enough, though, the way that everything worked out that night is Scott Wheeler ended up having that match. And Scott's a great referee. So I was able to be in the back and kind of watching it there. But yeah, you definitely kind of felt that winds of change, if you will. But it's like still, you know, you can't wrap your head around like the legacy that she created, like, and nobody talks about it. And that's kind of the sad thing.
I'm a big NWA fan. There's no hidden that. I've had half the roster on the show as often as I can. We're regularly seeing you guys live. So it's funny that you say that, though, about you being kind of the pick for Camille's matches and you being a big part of it, because in my head, I've seen you, I feel like, ref so much with her. So it's kind of that connection in my head. I just kind of assumed you were there, but hearing the story of why you weren't makes it that much cooler. So I'm thankful for my ignorance in this situation, because that was much cooler answer than I would have expected. So thank you.
I think I did the math, and I think she had, I can't remember the number of defenses that she had for the Burke, but I think I ended up doing like 65 to 70% of those matches. So that's and in as far as I know, and if you guys have any research capabilities or resources or anything like that, the first time that the speech was given to the Burke instead of the national championship was at Always Ready, and that was done by myself. And then for the second time ever, it was done at 75 for Natalia and Camille in the No Limits match. So I'm pretty stoked and pretty honored about that. And I would love if anybody out there has any history on that, if it's ever been done anywhere else. But as far as I know, that's the first time. So that was cool.
This is the best part about this conversation, Jarrod, is because I'm curious about where your head's at with it. As somebody who's been in the business and have such a successful career both on the indies and with NWA as a referee, Jax is a lifelong fan. He's been watching wrestling for a million years like me. So tonight's conversation is about the Mount Rushmore of our all-time favorite wrestling referees. That was a mouthful to get that out. I can speak a million miles an hour, but sometimes simple words are tough. So what I want to do is I'm going to start the conversation, and I'm going to ask you, Jarrod, when you were putting your list together of your all-time favorite referees, what were some of the things that you took into account as somebody who stands in the squared circle as often as you do? What attributes did you take as being the greatest or some of the greatest?
So with my list, and I tell this with everybody because I've been asked this multiple times over, and it's kind of the same way when it comes to wrestlers. With my list of Mount Rushmore, it's the people that I have the greatest connection with in the aspect of what I learned the most about how I needed to act in the ring. So we're not looking at legendary matches that were done. We aren't looking at notoriety. We aren't looking at, if you say that name in public, will somebody else know it who would maybe not be a wrestling fan? But it's people who, when I first started getting into refereeing and when I started rewatching matches and started looking at referees, what were the things that I really, really, really enjoyed that got me locked in? But again, not distracted, if that makes sense, focusing on the match more, but not being distracted by the referee. So, I posted up the other day when they had the PWI 500 come out. I was like, I'd always wonder if they're ever going to do a list of referees. And I forget who it was. I think it was Brent. I can't ever remember his last name. But anyways, he said, well, now what do you grade that on? You know, because if we're talking about like good referees, it's all the stuff that the audience doesn't see. How well they communicate, how consistent is their count, how well do they move in the ring, how much are they not in the camera's way. Like those are all things that the audience doesn't really pay attention to. You know, the audience sees the persons that's making the count, how they interact, how they take a bump, you know, whatever it might be. So, you know, you have like these kind of two different doors from a behind the scenes, and then you have on the grand stage, if you will. But my list is really more or less composed of the people who influence me the most. So people can say what they need to, but it's my picks.
That's the best part about this, and I say it all the time. We don't yuck any yums. Different doesn't mean wrong. Now, Jax, for you, as somebody who's a lifelong fan on the opposite side of that, what did you think about? What did you use to pick your picks for your favorite referees?
Storytelling. I mean, I went back when you said we were doing referees. I went back and watched just like different referee spots and stuff. And some of these guys are like, I'm not going to give mine away, but it took selling me on the story they were involved in is what really influenced mine. And one of them is because he calls one of my favorite matches of all time. So
I can't wait to hear that one.
I put a blend of the two of you together, I think, in some way. Not that all implying that I have any experience inside the business, but having been lucky enough to attend some seminars and stuff, like, you know, seeing that side of the curtain a little bit, I kind of had that much of an idea of what happens in the ring. But also a lifelong fan. I've been watching for over 30 years. So I kind of, I think I might be the bridge between the two of you, and I was hoping to be that. So, Jarrod, I'm going to let you tee off. I don't know if we wanted to kind of do it round robin. I have a feeling we're going to have a couple that will probably be on. I know me and Jax will have a couple. I think, Jarrod, you and I might as well. Okay. But what we'll do is I'll let you tee off. You pick somebody on your list. We'll kind of dissect it. Then Jax, then me, and we'll kind of round robin until we get through.
All right. So I think the number one pick that is undoubtedly, I think, should be on everybody's list if it's not number one is Tommy Young. Tommy Young has got to be the greatest referee of all time. For the sheer volume of what he had to do back in the day, the way that he did it, the way that he would sell, but again, not take away from the match. He got physical. That's one of the things that I thought was really funny when I first got into wrestling is, there's this old adage of don't put your hands on the wrestlers. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like if I have to separate them, I got to have to put my hands on them. And then I started watching a lot of Tommy Young stuff, and he was so physical and he was so in the face, but then could just like pull right back and give it back to the wrestlers. He was there when he had to be there and not when he didn't need to be there.
I agree. Tommy Young is also on my list, so I'll go ahead and tag team right behind you off of that one with some of my notes on him. One thing that I appreciated about him was the longevity in his career, exactly teeing off, starting in the 70s as a wrestler, then transitioning into being a referee. By the 80s, he was the senior referee for JCP. When you talked about it, it wasn't necessarily him being bigger than the talent, but he was always in the ring with the biggest talent JCP had to offer. So everybody from Flair to Steamboat to Wahoo to Dusty, he was all over. And my notes, I could show you right now. He was a traditionalist who held his ground, but also wasn't afraid to take a bump. And that's exactly what I wrote down. So you pretty much just echoed everything I had to say. Jax, you got anything on Tommy Young before you give your first pick?
No, sir.
No? All right. Who's on your list?
Well, I think he's one that should be on everyone's list. And it's only because he called Kurt Angle and Stone Cold Steve Austin Unforgiven when Kurt Angle won the title. Earl Hebner.
Earl is a great pick.
Because not only did he supposedly screw Brett or what everyone thinks, I don't know, but he did screw Kurt Angle that night because I remember it perfectly. Stone Cold's hand was under the rope when he tapped, and Earl had to go out the next night on Raw and apologize and take the belt from Kurt. And right there I went, oh. So right there on the top of my list is Earl Hebner.
Earl's a solid pick. I'm going to wait before I give my 2 cents on him, though, because I'm not giving 2 of my lists up right off the rip. I knew that we would have some overlap, though. Jarrod, I'm going to let you go next. Go ahead and give one of yours, and then I'll jump behind you with my next one.
Well, one last thing that I'd like to add for Tommy Young, because I didn't say it, is his sense of urgency in matches is what I think made the pins count a lot more. And it was the slide. The historic slide that like Tommy Young always did. And I kind of modeled myself after him. I've gotten a lot of accolades in that. I actually had Tommy Young at Crockett Cup compliment me on that. So like that was really cool in itself. So, but off of Jack's, Earl was fantastic. Absolutely was. Dave was fantastic. Absolutely was. And, you know, you got to think that the crop of referees following that probably wouldn't be nearly as good if it wasn't for them. But with that being said, Brian Hebner is my number 2 on the list. Yes, I have bias because he helped train me and he gives me advice on the regular basis. But historically, if you go look at the way that he worked in the ring, just like his father, he was there when he needed to be there and he wasn't there when he didn't need to be there. And he took some of the greatest bumps of all time.
Oh,
there was
God, he's a bump machine.
So, and the ability to figure out the creative ways to do it is something that I think all referees struggle with, because you don't want. And this is one thing that I tell people all the time is people say that I move around too much in the ring. Well, there's a reason for that. Because if I have to take a bump, I don't want to be out here. And then all of a sudden, why is he standing so close to that person? It doesn't make any sense, you know? So that's why I come in and I go out and I talk to somebody and I come out and I put my hands up here and I pull, you know, like, and I learned a lot of that from Brian in the way that he would move around the ring. And when he needed to, things started getting closer and closer and closer. And then when you saw it, you're like, oh, damn, I can't believe that happened. But then when you watch it back, you're like, oh, I see what's happening here. You know, you're setting up for it without being stoogey, if that makes sense. But yeah, his mind for the business is pretty much unparalleled. He gave me a lot of really good advice, you know, when it came to when I first started working with NWA. One of the first conversations that I had with him that I was actually very paranoid about, because growing up in the independents, it's like you're just a referee. You go out there and you count numbers, you know, that's it. But he actually told me about an instance when he was working for TNA. They were trying to get to a finish on something and everybody was, you know, kind of brainstorming ideas. And he's like, I have an idea. And he was kind of like, everybody kind of looked at him like, well, you're the referee. He's like, well, here's an idea. And everybody loved it. And it was the finish to the match, you know, and it made sense, you know. And he's like, don't ever hesitate to put your 2 cents in, because most times a lot of wrestlers, particularly these days, aren't trained on what a referee is responsible for. They're not even trained how to interact with the referee. They're only trained how to do moves and move around in the ring. That's it. You know, so you can add a lot more value to a match by giving your knowledge to make it make sense. And, you know, like, I'm forever in debt for him for giving me that kind of knowledge.
When they, you know, real popular in WWE, Cody Rhodes. Wrestling has more than one royal family. Like, when you think about the Rhodes and the Anoa'i family and everything that goes into it, like, there's a little bit of me as a wrestling fan that goes, you almost have to include the Hebners, right? Like, when you think about what they've done as officials, and I'll get to my Earl spill in a second, but my next referee I'm putting out there, Danny Davis. And 1981, hired by WWE. By 84, he was doing double duty. He was wrestling as Wrestler X and working as a full-time referee. I think that's a ballsy move for anybody that's willing to do both on a near full-time schedule. Like, that's impressive in its own right. But the one thing that stood out to me for Danny Davis is the importance of what happened in 86 with the birth of kind of the crooked referee, when he kind of became that first heel ref, you know, the first guy that was blatantly calling in favor of the bad guys, so to speak. And he was one of those those ground setters that eventually gave us, our Charles Robinsons and our Nick Patricks and some of these other guys. Like Danny Davis was kind of the guy who cut that cloth as the first bad guy referee. So that was kind of why I ended up putting. And then you look, he went wrestling to referee to doing both, to being a heel ref, to being a referee or being a wrestler with Jimmy Hart. He joined there, then went back to wrestling or being back as a referee. So the man's career spanned multiple decades doing both anyways, but kind of being that first bad guy ref and the crooked referee, I think puts him on my list to be that, the groundbreaker for that kind of an idea as a gimmick as a ref, in my opinion.
No, I totally respect that. And, Danny Davis did do a lot. And, when I was first kind of cutting my teeth in independent wrestling, I actually trained as a wrestler, started out as a ref. And then, so there was a promotion that for a very short period of time, that I would wrestle under a hood in the first match, get back in the back, change my clothes, and I'd come out and I'd referee for the rest of the show. So I have a lot of empathy towards Danny Davis for that, but also at the same time too, Danny Davis also gives a lot of referees that template of what not to do in the aspect of once you become a heel ref, there's really no kind of coming back from that per se. You're always going to have that, and then as a referee who becomes a wrestler, again, there's really no coming back from that as well. I have one more match left in me, and I've always said it'll happen when the story makes sense and when it's right. It's not going to just happen because I want to go back in there and have a wrestling match. I actually showed funny enough, I showed a picture to Tom Latimer of me wrestling, and he's like, "Bro, why aren't we bringing you in right now?" And I'm like, no. Let's let it make it seem right. So, but no, Danny Davis is definitely a big choice. I like that.
Jax, who's next on your list? Or you got anything to say about Danny Davis before you give me your next pick?
No, I'm gonna be honest with you, a little young for that one.
Thanks for making me feel old.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm gonna be honest. I would say my next pick, it's Nick Patrick, because that man refereed a whole pay-per-view by himself. He was the only referee the whole night. I can only imagine what it took to the memory he has to have to go through every finish, check on these guys, and nonstop the whole night. Really impressed me when I watched it. It took me the second watch of watching the NWO pay-per-view to go, that's the same referee every match.
Yeah.
But he was also that heel referee who that's what he was. He would never be a face referee.
Nope.
When they did, he was very involved in the invasion angle, when they came over. So I mean, Nick Patrick's right up there on my list of greats.
Good pick.
Yeah, absolutely. He was honorable mention for me. You got anything for Nick Patrick?
No, I think he did do well with the foundation of WCW. Basically doing everything there. Some of the takeaways just growing up, watching him and everything like that, because he did train, as a wrestler, and his stature is much bigger, and so that kind of takes away from it. I always joke about, I hated being small my whole entire life until I became a referee, and then it's actually a really good advantage, right? So. But no, I think Nick was really good. One thing that I always take away from Nick that I really liked, I didn't like the way that he flapped his hand when he counted, but the way that he constantly looked under the shoulder to make sure that the shoulder was down was something that I still do to this day, not every single time because I don't want to overdo it, but it's something that was ingrained in my head that I wrestled in high school, and the referees for folk style wrestling, they would have to do that to make sure that your shoulder was down. So why not pull it into professional wrestling too?
All right. You got another one off your list for us, sir?
Me?
Yeah.
Or Jarrod, then you.
All right. Red Shoes from New Japan Pro Wrestling. And he kind of goes back to he was the one that I actually started watching after I'd been about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years into refereeing. And the reasoning behind it is he's so authoritative and he is so physical. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with New Japan, and New Japan actually wants you as a referee to get physical with them, to make sure that you're spreading them, you're taking them apart, you're admonishing them, you're getting in their face. You got to listen to me, I'm the referee, that type of deal. And Red Shoes was the first one that, like, he took what Tommy Young did and escalated it to the next level there. And his size and his stature was something that I admired, because he was short and stocky, just like I am. So it was a lot of things that I could take from him, and his positioning and his sense of urgency were things that I don't think he gets enough credit for. Tiger Hattori from New Japan gets a lot of credit for a lot of the great things he did, and that's without a doubt, one of the best referees there. But Red Shoes really gave me that sense of authority, and like, it's okay to get in there and do the things. But I have to thank Tiger Hattori for the hairstyle, the man bun. Like, he made it cool for man buns in the ring, right?
I just kind of, echoing into the void, everything about Red Shoes going behind you. I loved how he embraced the Japanese style, that Japanese strong style, and the way he, like Jax was saying, when you talk about the story being told, I feel like that section of wrestling is its own working entity, whether it's a dance or whatever analogy you want to use for it. Japanese wrestling is a mind upon its own, and a beast, and a monster. And I feel like Red Shoes is that. He's like the Earl Hebner of Japanese wrestling. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? The one face you come to think of, the signature red shoes and his belt. Everything is a part of the story with him. Everything from the time he walks out to the ring to the time he counts 3 and walks back through the curtain, he's, telling his part of that story. And I love that. Selling to the crowd. And he keeps a lot of those old school traditional referee stuff. So if the heel is using a distraction to get him off center, he will oversell sometimes to the heel. You know what I mean? And I like how big he makes those motions to make it apparent of what he's doing. So absolutely right. Red Shoes was definitely on my list too. So 100%. So closer than I thought, Jarrod. We're so far so good.
I have something about Red Shoes to add.
What's up?
Oh,
he don't play no shit.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
excuse my language, but every time you see a Red Shoes match, you're like going, yeah, you ain't getting anything over on him, because he just won't like count.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I ain't counting, you shoved me.
Yeah.
Like, and it's awesome. Like I like Red Shoes.
Jax, you got another one?
Tim White.
Timmy.
Great pick. Yeah.
Tim White was, and it was more for, and this is going to sound so bad because it made me laugh a lot. More for it, he was doing the backstage vignettes, which I don't condone what he was doing, but when I was younger, it was kind of funny. But he was able to, you could just like everywhere from like he was like, y'all been saying, the more I think about it, he was where he needed to be when he was needed to be. But he also, from like all the stories you hear about him, was a very like great, genuine guy. So I think Tim White deserves to be on this list.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I think Tim was responsible for some of the great matches in WWE history. Not to mention he was the caretaker for Andre the Giant, so that alone like is impressive as hell. Tim, I think, broke the mold too for a lot of the standards. Like, he was the first referee that I remember that had a beard, and that was okay. And he was the first referee that was kind of a little overweight, but still, like, he was John Belushi. Like, he may have been overweight, but he could move in the ring and he could get in people's faces, and he had that intensity, and I love that about him. And it amplified. That's one thing I tell people who ask for my advice when it comes to refereeing, is just like a wrestling match should tell a story, like it should build, so should the referee's authority. I'm not going to go balls to the wall for the first infarction that they do in the corner. I'm going to tell that story. And that's one thing I think Tim did really well too, is like, he was cool and calm and collective at the beginning, but when it got elevated, he was right there in the face, and he did what he had to do.
Absolutely right. I don't think there's really anything I could add to that. Knocking one more off my list, and I feel like I have to throw it in there as an elder millennial and a 90s kid, and that's Little Nate's Charles Robinson. And talking about guys who were as over or more over than the talent, him coming in that mid to late 90s push, he was as popular as some of the wrestlers, getting paired with the Horsemen and becoming Little Nate. That 99 storyline leading up the Fall Brawl or Spring Stampede, or whichever one of the pay-per-views it was, but like him coming out, but also kind of that traditionalist factor. He came under the learning tree of Nick Patrick, was on Jax's list of everything he did for WCW. So Little Nate's learning from him, and he's still to this day. So the longevity, still a senior referee for SmackDown. So like as a wrestling fan growing up in the 90s and watching him work, and then seeing him now still in 2023 doing his thing. So I'll put Charles Robinson on my list.
Chuck is a fantastic choice. And if Mount Rushmore had more than just 4 heads, like clearly, but again, like this goes back, I still have yet to meet Charles Robinson face to face, which is surprising with the amount of people that I know who know him personally. His reactions have always been something that I like. His facials, something I had to get over though is like I would always copy the way that he would kick his head back after every single move, because it got so redundant and I didn't like doing that. But again, it's kind of his signature, his hair's the signature, that type of thing. And the infamous run for, what was that, WrestleMania? Jesus. I can't even remember. But when he ran like 100 yards, like full sprint,
all the way down that mile-long ramp.
Fantastic. So, I mean, that alone should put him on the list, right? But yeah, definitely Nate is a very good choice for that.
All right, I think that puts us around the block. Jarrod, this is the last one. So who's got that number 4 spot on your list?
Oh man, this is like really, really, really freaking hard. So I'm gonna say number 4, and I'm gonna give the reasons behind it, and then I've got to give a couple of honorable mentions, because I think it's just, again, Mount Rushmore needs to have more than 4 heads. Okay, Randy Anderson from WCW, short in stature, but authoritative as hell, and was always there when he needed to be there, and he always reacted properly. And he was the first referee that I ever remember seeing, like, if there was a count that needed to happen where it was so close to the ropes, he actually got outside of the ring and counted through the ropes to make it happen, And that was just something that I took away, that I was like, man. And if you look back on WCW history, he's had some really, really, really big matches, and unfortunately he was taken from us a little too soon. And I think he would have been one of the ones that would have made the transition over to WWE and probably still be there today, But his authority, being in the right place at the right time, and the way that he would react, and watching stuff now, I can see how he communicated with some of the wrestlers as well too, which was fantastic, and the whole angle where Hogan was revealed as the third man in the NWO. Randy Anderson was the official in that, and I think Hogan forgot like what he was supposed to do, and you could see Randy talking to him, and then Hogan acknowledges him and then tosses him out, so it's like, oh, very cool. I like that. So, but yeah, I think he rounds out. He was one of the ones that I watched a lot to get a lot of my characteristics and whatnot. But honorable mention, I definitely have to give it to Jimmy Corderas for sure. For his longevity alone and his mind for the business and the way that he acts in there. He was one of the first ones that I remember going, oh crap, that's Jimmy Corderas again. Oh wow, that's Jimmy Corderas again. Like his evolution throughout it, and the way that he has a good mind for the business is really, really good. James Beard, from WCCW. He did a lot of stuff with the Von Erichs overseas in Japan and in Texas. I've met him at WrestleCade, and I just love the way that he moves around in the ring. And he's part of the match without being the distraction of the match. You know, he's always with the workers, and that's one of the things that I don't think that you see a lot today, that I try to kind of pour into the wrestling entertainment aspect of it, is engaging with the wrestlers. Like when they have a hold, check the hold. You know, make sure that the guy is okay. Look at their eyes to make sure that they don't have a concussion. James Beard was one of the first ones that did that. And I think lastly, to kind of round it out, to not have too many honorable mentions, is John Cone from WWE. He's like a damn ballerina in the ring. Like he's one of the ones that when you were told don't be seen in the ring, he was the shining example of that. Like you're like, where the hell is the referee? Oh, it's John Cone, you know, because he was just, but he like glided around the ring. His movement in the ring was seamless, and it's something amazing to watch.
When you're so eloquent in the way you say things, it's really hard for me to follow you, Jarrod. There's not a whole lot of people that can leave me with being like, well, shit, I don't have anything to say now. Like, there's not very many people that can do that to me, man. So well done. I do like bringing Randy Anderson up. I do like him in the aspect of when you think about big moments, you think about Dave Hebner and being in there with Macho Man and Andre the Giant. You think of Earl when you think of like Steamboat Savage, those big moments, and that leg drop and everything that happened in '96. Like he's that guy. When I think of that match, I think, you know, the workers in the ring and the three WCW guys coming out with the Sting face paint, and like I could down to the referee. And I feel like that's a great pick for kind of that all-time status when you look at the people that were there for the biggest moments. So 100% I could see why he was like, aside from all the other amazing things you said. Jax, who's the last guy on your list?
I have two. And one's my honorable mention, but Mike Chioda for me is a legendary referee. But I have two real quick honorable mentions, only because I've kind of watched like from the indie, like when they started off in the indies into what they're doing now. But Paul Turner and Todd Sinclair. Like, to watch like Paul Turner like call Ring of Honor and work his way up. Now he's at AEW, and that's kind of cool. And Todd Sinclair is like, ooh, a big guy can do this. You're like, I'm a short, chubby guy. I mean, and I was like, he moves quicker. It's like Keith Lee. I don't understand how they move that quick.
Genetics.
Yeah.
My last one. And I saved him to be because in my head, he's that go-to guy, that number one referee in most cases. And it's going to be Earl Hebner for me. My final pick. When you look at it, what he did in the 80s, talking about Steamboat Savage, then the screw job in Montreal in the 90s, all the work he did with Impact in the 2000s, and then AEW being there for that Cody Dustin match. Like, the man has been one of the top biggest faces in referees and pro wrestling in 4 different decades and more. So in my opinion, like Jarrod said earlier, he's that go-to number one without question. Like sometimes he's that guy sometimes. So Earl Hebner was my final entry on the Mount Rushmore of referees.
Yeah.
So
no, definitely good picks. And, going back to Jax, Chioda definitely deserves to be, on the list for sure. I mean, just look at some of the matches that he's called, right? Like some of the most influential matches in history. And just, again, I had the opportunity to meet him in Tampa when we were down there doing the pay-per-view down there for NWA. And, of course, you got to ask, I mean, like, hey, did you get a chance to watch any of the matches that I did? Oh, absolutely. What do you think? He's like, I've got nothing for you. He's like, the only thing I could say, he's just like, the only thing I could say is you look too much like one of the boys, and that's a big thing for a lot of the guys from like old WWE, WWF, whatever, is that you didn't want to look too much like the boys, So, and Tommy Dreamer rips on me all the time about it. He's like, why are you more fit than most of the guys? I'm like, I like to work out. I'm sorry, but but the also the defense to that too is if we're trying to, which we are, if we're trying to make wrestling more respectable, and now we're putting it up against MMA, the referee actually has to look like they can take care of the situation, right? So I might be 5'7" and 173 pounds, but I'm going to hold my own and I'm going to take a bump, and some of the bumps I'm going to come right back up from because I take care of myself, if that makes sense. And that's another thing when it comes to assigning referees. I feel when it comes to assigning referees is that you have to find the right fit for the right situation. The bump that I took with Camille in the Markova match, yes, it was a no limits match. It was a no DQ. But what we were trying to get over is that she was going to kick out of the spear, and she did. And so we needed that extra 2 or 3 seconds. So I took that bump, but because I'm in good enough shape, and people see that on social media, by the way, they see that I train consistently all the way, so I can take an elbow to the face and kind of come up, shake it off for a couple seconds, and then see, oh my God, there's a pin, move over, do this sort of the slow count, and then build myself back up to it. So, but yeah, so Kyoto's a great pick for that. And, I think he definitely deserves a spot for sure. And Paul Turner's a great referee. Like you said, to see him kind of make the ranks up, he sure as hell deserves it. And Todd Sinclair did a lot for building Ring of Honor for what it was.
Yeah.
Well, Jarrod, you gave me an
sir.
hour. We did it in 58 minutes and 35 seconds, man. That's how you hit your times, brother. That's how you do it right there.
That's what I get. That's what I get paid for, buddy.
Before you take off and Al hops back in with us, tell everybody where to find you, what's going on in your socials, how's the strongman stuff coming along, like whatever you want to put over.
So strongman is going really, really well. Finally got back to it after recovering from COVID and the long ass loop that I was on with wrestling. Unfortunately, I had to withdraw from my next competition due to an NWA taping, but there'll be another one. But that doesn't stop me from training. So check out all my social media to see me do dumb shit. So social medias, Jarrod.Fritz, so JARROD.Fritz for TikTok and Instagram, JFritz Refit on Twitter, and Jarrod C. Fritz LMT on Facebook. I'm pretty much an open book. If anybody has any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to me anytime. This upcoming Sunday, I will be in Keenersville, North Carolina with AML Wrestling. I'll be back with AML on the 21st in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And then we've got the big slew of everything that's happening after that, which is Cleveland for Samhain with NWA. November 4th in Nashville for TV tapings with NWA. November 10th in Dallas, Texas with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then the 18th, we're in Sarasota, Florida for NWA tapings. And then the following weekend after that is back in Winston-Salem for WrestleCade weekend with AML. So come check me out. Come say hi. Reach out anytime.
Busy man. It's always a pleasure, man. When our paths cross and we have a chance to talk and, talk shop, I always love it. But you're off the hook. I told you I'd get you done in an hour, brother. So I appreciate you stopping by and chatting about some wrestling with us.
Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great evening. All right.
You as well.
You.
Take care.
See you, sir.
Bam.
And she's back.
Bam. I'm in the wrong spot. Thank you. I was having anxiety for a minute because I was in the wrong spot.
Okay, Al. Now that you're back, that was a great conversation. That was a lot of fun. Now it's time for news and rumors. It's time for you to do your thing. Let's talk about some wrestling from this week.
All right. Couple of things. A lot of shit fucking happened this week. Let's just be fair. So let's start out with a few softballs, shall we? Eddie Kingston is stepping away from the Indies to focus on AEW, Ring of Honor, and New Japan.
We kind of talked about with Jax's Pissed Off for Greatness. I love Eddie Kingston being the Ring of Honor champion. And I think one of the key things, the most important things to take away from this, and Jarrod kind of talked about it, is somebody's bump card and knowing how many matches you have left. Eddie wants to make his career last longer. He has to cut back some of those indie bookings if he wants to be a good, viable fighting champion for AEW, Ring of Honor, and New Japan. AJ, the reason why I wouldn't ask about the NWA 75 running the ropes, bud, is I'm not going to ask something like that of another employee where you would have nothing good to say about it. Like there's really no way for him to sugarcoat that. So I wasn't going to put him in a position where he had to answer a shitty question about his employer. I didn't want to put him in that position. So I wasn't ignoring you, but I wasn't also going to ask him a question where he would have to say not nice things about somebody. That's not my bag, Bubba. I love you, and I'm acknowledging your question. I just didn't want to ask him. That's just me personally. What do you think about Eddie Kingston, Bubba, taking some time off from the Indies?
I think well deserved. He's done. He's a world champion.
Yeah, he is.
He's Eddie 2 belts, baby.
Eddie 2 belts.
Eddie 2 belts.
We popped. We did. Weren't we watching together when that happened?
Yes, we were. It was right before the Wolfpack.
I thought you were still on when that happened.
Yeah, no. I think, no. If he wants his career to last longer, you just start backing up on some of these booking dates and start. They can't miss you if you're always there.
Agreed, Kingston. Moxley. That was a joke because Moxley's always on fucking TV.
Right.
Yeah, they can't miss you if you're always there.
I did want to go back to something in Pissed Off for Greatness that I didn't want to say with, Jarrod on. But I really, as far as the young fucks are concerned, one, I stand by what I said, and they need to stop putting Ring of Honor titles on guys who are 100% AEW talent, like the Young Bucks. And two, why are you going to do a title change on pre-taped TV?
Because everyone knew the Bucks weren't losing anyway.
Yeah, but that's just, don't even put them in that match. Stop putting Ring of Honor titles on AEW. Stop it. Stop it.
Brand splits are real and drafts don't matter.
It's not even a brand split. They're two fucking separate companies. It's not even a brand.
It's not even its own fucking brand. You're a totally different company.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anywho.
I'm probably gonna fuck this name up. You didn't know they had 45 belts on AEW? No, Scowls. And we're just adding more belts to AEW.
This is all a ploy to get those belts on the Dark Order.
Listen, AEW is going to start giving a belt for somebody who has the most belts.
Scout said he's not that far off. He's not. Let's think about Ring of Honor and AEW together, right? So 2 world championships, 2 women's world championships, 2 tag titles, 2 trios titles. Okay? The TBS title, the TNT title. So that's 10.
That's 10.
That's not counting the TV title is 11. The Pure title is 12. International title is 13. FTW title was that 14 or 15? 14. So Scowls was a third of the way there.
The real world championship.
The real world championship would be
that doesn't
15.
count anymore.
Are we sure?
Fucking Tony Khan might make it. I think that's all of them. But still, that's 14 fucking Scout said again, not that far off.
That's not right.
Hey, Scowls, how are you doing?
Bull Nakano, did I say that right?
Yeah, you're good.
Will be commissioner of the new Joshi promotion.
I put the name in there so I could see if you'd pronounce it.
Sukuban?
Sukiban.
Sugar my balls.
She's a legend in Impact and pretty much everywhere she's ever worked. I wish I was more familiar with the stuff she did in Japan before she came over here, but there's even I can't watch everything, believe it or not.
No.
So
bullshit.
But she was revolutionary in the sense that she was doing fucking leg drops off the top of cages and shit in women's matches 25 years ago. Like when Lita and them had that first women's cage match on Raw, Bull Nakano was like, nah, bro, I did that shit like 6 years ago in Japan. This isn't the first women's cage match. So she's a legend inside of women's wrestling. She was an innovator with the way women fought and worked in a ring. So good on her for taking a commissioner spot. Maybe they'll give her the pencil and let her help book the promotion too. Bigger question is, and I said this in one of the group chats, how will Joshi wrestling get a footing in the United States? Do we think the casual wrestling fans are going to like Joshi style wrestling at all?
Probably not. They don't like New Japan.
I watch New Japan.
You're not the typical wrestling fan.
Jax, you and I are far from casual.
Okay, good point.
Speaking of
I like your hair.
Thanks, I got it cut. You can't really tell I got it cut, but
I knew there was something different about you. I'm kissing ass. Shut up.
I got like 3 inches cut off because it was like
it's very nice.
And shitty.
It did a lot. It did a lot for your shoulders.
Thanks, Jax.
I can't afford to have 3 inches cut off anywhere.
No.
Lord. Will Ospreay says in backstage interview that WWE tried to buy Rev Pro for $1 million cash, but the owner turned it down to stay independent. Do we think that this is actually true?
I 100% could see it because they bought Evolve and they bought ICW, and we saw what they did there. It's been this slow trickle of where it's like their whole plan was to take over the British independent scene. And I feel like Progress is another one. So, like, thank you, Scouts, for throwing that. I couldn't remember the third one. But, like, you're absolutely right. I feel like them making a realistic offer for Rev Pro is something that could have happened over there. I 1,000% think that.
I wish I could say this in my best Stewie Griffin voice, but I'm not going to. Where's the money, Colin Thompson? Podcast One and the missing $4 million. Podcast One, the missing $4 million, and the podcast/content creators he's cheated. Coffeezilla had Brian Last on to discuss the story.
So I put this one on there because it's topical, because, you know, we run a podcast network with Scals and Shadow and me and you, Jax and Mike and all the people that are part of Rivet City Radio. What Colin Thompson did, he ran a podcast network that had Theo Vaughn's podcast on it. It had both the Cornet Experience and the Drive Through, all the other Arcadian Vanguard podcasts that Brian Last's networks are for. And what he was doing is he was selling ad space as a huge network with a bunch of shows that kind of went under that one umbrella. Okay. And he would sell ad space out, and shows were supposed to be getting payouts based on this ad space. But the numbers that they're getting is that Colin Thompson took between $4 and $6 million. So you want to talk about, you know, your cute little Asian bears that were taking $250, $300, or you can talk about all the other like carny fucks that are in podcasting. But guys, this dude legitimately stole $6 million from his employees.
Holy shit.
Like, that's why I put that on there, because it's topical. A lot of people in the chat, from, you know, Katie to me to Jax, AJ's been a part of it. Scal's one of my partners now. Husky's been on WCW and a million of the other shows. He's on the Wolfpack. Like, everything we do, all of us are a part in sub capacity, have been on a podcast or in a network, and we've seen some shady stuff happen. Then you see Colin Thompson do what he did, and it makes those scumbags on TikTok look like innocent saints. To think about what it would take to steal $4 to $6 million from your content creators.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, dude. And I'm not a big proprietor. I like Cornette for what he was in the ring and as a manager. But the older I get and the older he gets, the further off the spectrum we are from being in line with what we think good pro wrestling is, which is fine. But when I heard about it on his show, I went and listened to it. And it sounds to me like these guys were doing what they were told to do. They were doing the shows. They were running the ads. They were doing all the partnerships. And then at some point, the checks just stopped. They just stopped getting paid for their work. So, yeah, Colin Thompson, where's the fuck is that money, bro? Where's everybody's millions? Dude, $4 million, that's a lot of change. That's more than WWE offered to buy RevPro, I hear.
Okay, so I want to talk about all of the releases and stuff, but I'm going to read, so before we discuss, I'm going to read a couple of different headlines on the topic, and then I'm going to read the list of the people that have been released, and then we can discuss it as a package. Fair?
Fair.
All right. Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel is looking to cut $50 to $100 million in costs in WWE to increase profitability, says the Wrestling News Observer. In their latest post on WWE post-merger layoffs, PW Insider says several current and now former WWE's employees told them this wouldn't have happened under Stephanie McMahon's watch. The site acknowledges that an emotional statement doesn't reflect business realities, but shared it as evidence of highly thought of Stephanie was as a leader at the company. Fightful noted at the recent WWE employee meeting, Vince McMahon told everyone the company had plateaued and they did the merger with UFC so they could get to the next level. Fightful says that some members of the roster were frustrated WWE made these cuts on the same day as the announcement of the new lucrative TV deal. There are wrestlers who mistakenly thought the days of mass cuts were behind them and deals would simply be allowed to expire. As far as Matt Riddle's release is concerned, one higher up in the company told Fightful Select that he burned through too many chances. Riddle was not factored into WWE's creative plans following his recent airport incident. So here are the list of those released so far. So Matt Riddle, Mustafa Ali, Emma, Riddick Moss or Madcap Moss, whatever you want to call him, Rick Boogs, Benjamin Shelton, Top Dollar, Aaliyah, Elias / Ezekiel, because apparently you have to throw them both in there. Dolph Ziggler, Commander Aziz, Dana Brooke, Quincy Elliott, Shanky, Mace, Mansoor, Yulisa Leon. I don't know if I said that right. Daniel MacArthur, Bryson Montana, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Eichmann Giro, Alexis Gray, Melanie Brzezinski, Brooklyn Barlow, and Abul.
Nice try.
Abadi Fitzgerald. Yep. So, is it 22? 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I don't know. Whatever. It's a bunch. So I did some mathing and I pulled up everybody's salaries, which I'm not going to go into all that detail but as of right now, the talent totals are about 7 million in cuts. And then I took the average salary of a WWE corporate employee, let go 50 employees. So that was roughly like a little under 4 million. So we'll round up. So they've gotten rid of about 15 million ish.
So about a third of the way to the.
Yeah.
I don't know who else they could cut if they wanted to do more than that.
Vince McMahon.
There's some.
They could also get rid of a lot of these Legends deals. Which, I mean, they're basically paying Ric Flair a salary to like stay alive. I mean, some of the Legends do things with their deals and some just don't. I do think Vince is on his way out. They've made several statements about how he, with all the new recent shenanigans, that they're not going to put up with it. So, I mean, that's the rest of the money right there. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't shocked by any of the cuts.
I was shocked by one.
Whom?
I was shocked by Mustafa because he had on-air running time. Like he was booked for NXT's next premium live event, like for a title match.
Yeah. So
No Mercy, right?
He asked to be released because his contract is up at the end of the year or early in 2024. He wanted to go. He was the only one that was released that was a mutual decision. So he asked 2 years ago to be released, and they said, "Thank you, Scouts." I knew it was right. He asked 2 years ago to be released, and they told him no. He's been wanting to go. So, I mean, honestly, they should have let him go when he asked. Like, why would you keep somebody around who doesn't want to be there?
You're not wrong.
So, I mean, I'm interested to see if more are coming, and I say that because I do find it a little weird.
What's up, brother Mike?
That they would release Top Dollar, but they didn't release BFAB or
Ashanti.
Thank you. I was like, the name is there, but it's gone.
You're right. They won't release people who want to, because people who want to be released and know they'll get booked elsewhere will be giving other people money. And Vince is anti-making other people money. He always has been. So if he knows, like an Ali, he knows Ali's going to get booked in Impact or New Japan. I need a fucking squeaky ass chair.
I mean, Riddle is, of course, going to go to AEW because they're the only ones that will accept his antics. I mean,
him and Tony Khan will be doing booger sugar together.
Right? And honestly, like, I mean, they dealt with Punk for as long as they did. So, yeah, I'm not really surprised when we started talking about all the cuts they were going to have to make. Like, I had previously said most of these people were probably going to be on. I think we both clicked it. If you follow AJ Francis, he said that he believes BFAB and Ashanti will get more TV time and mic time because he's gone. I love BFAB, I love Ashanti, and I love AJ Francis. Like, I've liked AJ since he was on the Hidden Treasure show. Like, I thought that was really cool. Like, I love me some Mick Foley. Don't get me wrong, but like, there was something different about having AJ in there, like being green to the business and being in NXT and developmental, and him like telling these, like learning these stories from these wrestlers about like the gear and stuff. Like, I don't know, there was just something special about it when he was on the show that I feel like we're not getting. I still love it. It's a good show, but
my camera won't refocus.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. That is weird. Did you watch the vignette that Mason Monster put together about their idea, the Fixers? No, but they can't use that name if they want to. There's a trademark tag team in the NWA that are the U.S. Tag Team Champions that are called the Fixers right now. I'm curious. What'd they do? Scouse, enlighten me. I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, while Scouse types that up, do y'all think that we're going to see more releases?
I think so as well. Thank you, Bubba. And then Mike says he thinks Elias goes to Impact. I think that would be a great fit. As much as I hate to say it, yeah, I think there will be other releases. I see it happening.
I think a lot of NXT is going to be.
I don't think it's going to be NXT. I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to be a lot of those level up guys because they're not going to really worry about the level up and the next in line and all of that stuff. UFC or the TKO Holdings Group is only going to worry about things that bring stuff to the bottom line. One of the things they said that you and I were talking about this, we saw the report. It was on, I want to say it was the Times, New York, not LA, that said they were taking three things into account when they were making these cuts. And they said they took everybody on the roster and applied each person to this equation. And it was how long you had been with the company, how much your annual salary is, and how much of a money-making draw you are to the bottom line. And that was the deciding factor. So if they legitimately applied that to everybody, anybody who equaled a negative number and isn't bringing in more money than what they make or however long the tenure is, like if they don't balance that equation out, like it's not going to surprise me at all if there are more cuts coming from WWE.
Yeah. No,
They took what down? Oh, the post. Okay. Thank you, Scouse.
I disagree. And I agree with Mike. I think Ali could go to AEW. I also think that he could go to New Japan. I mean, he could really go anywhere. Yeah, I mean, the only one that wasn't taken into consideration with obviously Matt Riddle. But I didn't put this in news and rumors, and I meant to, so I don't remember where it came from. But apparently, Triple H was not consulted in a single one of these cuts. Not a one did he have a say. So it came from above him. So, any more about the releases before we move on?
Mike says Riddle to MMA again, likely Bellator.
No, because he can't pass a drug test.
That's going to be the biggest question, man. Who's going to let him pass? Like, who's going to do it most for show? He could go fight for Triller or whoever the fucking the Paul guys fight with. Like, because none of them pass drug tests.
I mean, he could just go do porn with his girlfriend.
That's what I think he'll do. I guarantee you him and his old lady put out an OnlyFans within the next couple months. Once she poops that baby out, like, it's over.
Oh, I didn't realize she's pregnant.
Oh, yeah. She's whole ass pregnant.
Whole ass.
Mike says he's going to draw the line somewhere. That's a porn he won't watch.
Hey, listen, I might just watch it.
I've seen photos of Matt Riddle's wee wee. I'm gonna watch it.
There ain't nothing wee about that man's wee wee.
Yeah.
I watched Tommy Lee dick down Pamela Anderson. I'll watch Matt Riddle do it.
Hell yeah.
He'll do like a parody because he looks so much like Sean Penn. They'll do a parody of Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Dude, that would be hilarious.
It would be. And honestly, they could do porn even before the baby's born. Like that's like a whole situation.
I said that. I used that joke the other day in a group chat about how that's a kink.
Moving forward, Hollywood Haley J stopped taking bookings after December and is expected to be in NXT in 2024. I have no idea who this is. You made me put that on there.
It's if you've watched the wrestler documentary on Netflix, she is one of the main focuses. Here's my problem with her. She was very open about her use of like marijuana and she's one of those ghetto girls. Like
I compared her to the Catch Me Outside girl. If you guys remember who that is.
Catch Me Outside girl.
Yeah.
It is. I don't see how she fits in. I don't know where she'll fit in on WWE with that attitude she had in the documentary.
Jade looks so pissy.
She's angry. I've got her stretched out like a gun. She doesn't care. She's zero fucks given.
I tried to get Daisy, but she's having none of it.
She doesn't want anything to do with you right now.
No, she does. She just didn't want. Anyways, according to BWE, everyone backstage at WWE was ecstatic with The Rock's return and the reaction to it. Having said that, there is no agreement in place beyond that. Though there is a meeting scheduled to discuss story options, Cody Rhodes is still the priority at the moment.
As it should be.
As it should be.
I think Cody Rhodes 1,000% needs to be the priority of WWE in this moment. He's next to Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. He's your biggest star. He's the baby face who's chasing the car, right? The dog chasing the car. I use that analogy all the time. That's what we got right now.
Yeah.
The Rock is bigger than the title. He doesn't need it.
Also from BWE, they're looking at John Cena versus Solo Sikoa for Royal Rumble or Mania.
Rumble, yes. Mania, no. I don't really have anything other than just saying that. I just don't know if I want to wait until April and see multiple John Cena matches.
And then Styles and the Styles and Bloodline story continues strong towards the Saudi show, which some are interpreting as a clue as to who Roman Reigns will face in his next title defense. I don't. This is going to sound real bad, okay? I don't want to see AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns.
No one wants to see it.
Nobody wants to see that.
I know one person that does, but like that's it.
Like, and that's not a slight against AJ Styles, but Mike, that's not fucking going to happen, and we all know that that's not going to happen. As much as like that would be great, like that's just not it.
That's not the move.
That's not the move. And I think like giving him a bullshit title defense that doesn't fucking matter, that we all know he's gonna win, like do something else. Like if he's gonna win, at least let him win against Jay or Jimmy or someone I give a fuck about that makes sense.
You think just throwing him in a Jax, what do you think about it? Like, do you think him going against AJ, even if we know AJ wouldn't win that match because they're not going to, AJ is not the one to take the belt off Roman. I think we can all agree to that. Do you think it's a useless feud to have him chew AJ up over the next few weeks leading into the whatever after Fastlane is Survivor Series?
I'm sorry, Mike. And I don't want to see AJ and Roman at all.
No.
It's not a pay-per-view match
Roman
to
and
me.
Bobby.
Roman and Bobby would be a great match.
I feel like their styles just don't go well. I don't know. Like, I would like to see AJ for like the US title or something mid-card. I wouldn't even be mad at like AJ going after Seth. But I just feel like with all of the other options and storylines that are being built up, like having a bullshit title match to further ruin this story that they could have ended 15 times is not the move. If he was going to drop it to anybody other than Jimmy or Jay Uso or Cody Rhodes, then it would have been frickin' Sammy.
I don't disagree.
So, moving forward, in addition to all of the releases, there is a laundry list of contracts that are about to expire and deals that they are still not even close to working out. LA Knight, Edge, and Drew McIntyre are not close on money in their negotiations with WWE on new deals. Sheamus and Becky are also towards the end of their contracts as well. Becky's contract is set to end early 2024. There's rumors that people don't think she's going to re-sign with how she's been treated lately. What do y'all think?
Who, Becky?
Yeah.
She's a fucking champion.
Yeah.
I think she's been treated fine.
Her and Triple H have been kind of like, there was the whole like lemonade situation. And I do think it is mildly convenient that there was a tear in her passport and she couldn't go to India. Like,
yeah, it was a tragedy. It was a tragedy.
Yeah. I mean, props to Natty for stepping up, but like, I don't know. I know that she has been unhappy as of late. And like, yeah, she's a Grand Slam champion now. And like, she's, everyone's like, yeah, she's going to NXT to help them. But like, let NXT help themselves. Like, build up the NXT roster. It's same with Ring of Honor. Let NXT build up their people and stop taking people from the main roster or other rosters to put on this show. Like, if this show can't stand up on its own without bringing people from the other brands, fucking cancel it.
It might be canceled.
It might be canceled. So Raw might also be canceled, they're saying too.
Nah, there's not a chance Raw gets canceled.
But I'm saying, like, if you're having to bring in people from other parts of the roster to try to make this look better, there's something wrong with this. Let's fix this and stop borrowing from this. It's like robbing Paul to pay Peter.
I think you're turning it up to 11 real quick. I don't think them canceling either of the big WWE shows is even on their radar. But
they just haven't worked out the deals yet. It was just something I saw in a headline. It was a joke.
That's the only reason. It's funny. Haha. It's a funny haha.
It's a joke.
Oh, I was taking it way too serious then, and I apologize for that.
But I'm just saying, like,
you sounded awful serious about it.
No. I don't know. I just feel like if NXT can't stand on its own, while there are amazing people on that roster that just aren't getting good builds, then get rid of it.
Nah. You
I don't
want a tirade there.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, it is what it is. Like, all of their belts are on main roster people except for two. Except for two.
Which two?
No, it's just the one.
Yeah.
The men's belt.
Mm-hmm.
And
the tag belts.
Oh, the men's tag belts, yeah. Yeah, so 3 of their, they don't have their own women's tag belts anymore.
No.
Because why should we add women's titles when we can take them away? The women's title is on Becky. The North American title is on Dom. Why? It's fucking dumb.
You want to really get her worked up? Pete Dunne's in the finals for the Heritage Cup Championship.
Fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. Let NXT talent shine. There's great people there. Let them shine.
Let them do their thing.
But NXT is not getting the exposure. People still aren't watching NXT on Tuesdays. Because they can see the NXT belts on Mondays and Fridays. Why should they watch on Tuesdays? There is no drive for them to watch on Tuesdays.
It is the least watched show of the three brands.
I watch it.
You
I
have
go to the live. I don't have to. I go to the live events when they come to town. I enjoy NXT, but hold on, wait. I enjoy the up and coming talent from NXT.
Correct. Yeah.
What's up, Jess? Thanks for stopping
But
by,
like this,
bud.
they had their two best weeks in 3 years. I mean, that's amazing. But like, it's not going to continue because eventually people are being like, oh, well, I can see it over here. I can promise you it's not going to help. Like, it's going to boost it for a little bit, but then it's going to just go away. If they just spent the time, like, let's take the NXT talent and feature them on Raw and SmackDown so that they're spotlighted, and then be like, blah, 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 watch us on Tuesdays. It's marketing. It's super fucking easy. Like, it's not that hard. No, they haven't. They only bring the Raw people to NXT. Or the SmackDown, whichever. Anyways, moving forward. Whatever. Show me. Prove to, like, other than being in the crowd, what person from NXT has wrestled on Mondays or Fridays?
Dragon Lee did. He's right there. I don't remember if Mello had a match.
Not in the last 6 months.
Braun Breaker.
Regardless.
Mello.
When did Mello have that match? Tell me when these 4 matches were.
Braun Breaker was for the NXT World Championship against Dolph Ziggler on a Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
When?
I think it was the Raw after Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So April.
So 6 months ago.
Hold on, ma'am. I'm just
I know.
answering the question.
Well, yes, I know.
Not get ripped my head off.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that was 6 months ago.
Lee's tomorrow night. So there you go.
Yeah, Dragon Lee's tomorrow night.
You're passionate out.
I'm just saying, like, let them shine. Like, instead of firing all these NXT people, like, build them up.
I said at the very beginning that next in line in the Level Up program were not. Hayes was in June. So April, then June, then September. So about every 90 days.
Which is not enough. Again, that was before the titles were taken off of their show.
Yeah. I see your point, and I think there could be a conversation there, but I think that I would want to pull some match statistics and see the difference between Raw and SmackDown talent going to NXT versus NXT talent appearing on Raw and SmackDown and see what the difference is.
So moving forward. People close to Jade Cargill told Fightful she was treated well as she left AEW, and there doesn't seem to be any ill will. Cargill received an ovation backstage after her last match, and AEW reportedly made giving her a nice send-off a priority. Still, the site says she is expected to sign with WWE. I have a couple of more things about her. WWE filed trademarks for Jada Parker, Out the Mud, and OTM. The last 2 could be for the new Scripps, Bronco, Nima, and is it Luchin Price Group? Nima said they made it out of the mud in a promo on the 19th of September on NXT. There's a lot of fans speculation Jada Parker could be Jade Cargill's new name, but no reports on it.
Sorry, Miss Parker.
Hi, Miss Parker.
Miss Parker.
I saw the report on the name, but I also saw that it was coming up. She's a track and field athlete from Alabama, I think. One of the girls from NXT Level Up was linked to the Jada Parker name. So it could end up being Jade for all we know, either way. But I did remember seeing it being linked to one of the next in line girls that are going to be in the NXT class next year that Hollywood Haley J is apparently going to be in.
No scouts. House shows don't count.
House shows aren't canon.
Nope.
Tiffany, however, is getting primed for, I think, a big main roster call-up. They've been pushing her
Which
hard.
is deserved. I'm not saying that's not, and I'm not saying that there's, like, I'm not trying to shit on NXT. That's not what I'm doing. I think NXT is great. They just don't do enough to spotlight them. And they take away, and them putting NXT things on main roster people takes away from these talented younger people in NXT. So while it sounds like I'm shitting on NXT, I'm not actually.
Yeah.
All right, I need to power through these.
Yeah, we've got about. Yeah.
I've got. There was a lot this week, man.
It was a busy week.
We've all seen the video of Randy Orton at the Performance Center. I mean, he can go and visit people. Like, it's okay. He's got friends.
Agreed.
And he's still doing charity stuff. They do a lot of things at the Performance Center more than just training.
He could be fucking filming a vignette for a documentary or an upcoming episode of Forbidden Treasures or whatever, Hidden Treasures or whatever the fuck it is.
There's no telling what he could have been doing there. Like,
but he also could have been training and taking bumps and getting ready for an in-ring return. We don't know. Fuck it. I would love it if he came back.
Also, out of the Performance Center, the only confirmed name so far is Brogan Finlay. Finlay? Son of WWE's David Finlay and brother of New Japan's current Bullet Club leader, David Finlay.
Yeah, he's small.
Yeah.
Is it Finlay or Finlay?
Finley?
Finley.
Yeah, so Finley.
I will believe this scouts when I see him walk through that entrance. I've heard he's about to be cleared so many times. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with all the Randy Orton stuff. Is I'll believe it when he walks through the door.
Yeah,
strutting his stuff.
Okay, this is a AAA thing. Look at that branching out.
El Hijo del Vikingo.
That person suffered a serious hip injury at last week's Ring of Honor taping. His AAA title match this coming weekend in Mexico is a Jeopardy, or I guess was.
I want to bring back the power rankings with Scows, but El Hijo de Vikingo, however great he was in ring, and I'm not taking away from his ability in ring, fantastic worker. He was not defending that title, and he was not defending that title often enough for me to go, okay, so they're going to give it to somebody else. Like, this wouldn't be a Roman or an MJF or a Seth Rollins, even though he's held the belt for almost as long as Seth has had his, I believe, or longer. But if you're not defending your title, it's just a vanity present. It's just a vanity at that point.
Yeah.
Like, defend your title. That's all I need from you. Like, if you're not going to defend it, then, like, get rid of it. And he was defending less than Tyrus, and that says something.
Yeah. AEW sold a lot of tickets for Grand Slam last week. According to both PW Insider and Dave Meltzer, Insider said Wednesday's walk-up business was the highest day of sales in AEW's history. This attributed to the amount of local media done by MJF, Chris Jericho, Tony Khan, and others. So prior to Wednesday, they had barely sold any tickets for Wednesday. But I guess they hyped everything up and got a bunch sold day of. I'm curious as to how cheap they had to mark those tickets down.
For which show?
For Grand Slam.
Jax, you got anything to say about it?
Don't do a drone shot. They did this drone shot, and it did not look good. The wrestling of the night was good. I enjoyed the show, But that drone shot, you could tell how big that arena really is to what they were using. The drone shot was very bad.
Scouse and I talked about it later after you dropped out going into Wolfpack. Grand Slam, the first year was like 22,000 people. The second year was like 13,000 people. And this year they didn't break 10. So if you look at the decrease over the last 3 years, they have seen a drastic decline in overall like draw. Is it an oversaturation of the markets? Are they abusing the same cities over and over again so people just aren't as excited about it?
Yeah, they need to start. I think they need to branch out, like go to places. Stop running Chicago 16 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
No doubt, dude.
Like stop running California the other fucking. Well, like when's the last time they've been to Florida?
Yeah, they only come to Nashville once a year as well. So
I don't remember them going to South. I think they need to branch, and what they need to do is book a pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden.
they won't. They can't. There is a.
I tried that WWE Stronghold on it.
Yeah, they've got a handshake agreement with MSG that they won't book a major promotion in that venue.
I wonder if that is
After
null
Ring
and
of Honor
void
sold it.
the Endeavor deal, though.
I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do with it, but Vince, like, if wrestling's booked in Madison Square Garden, Vince McMahon says it's okay first.
No, you gotta say it's okay.
I mean, he's ran the New York territory since the 1970s.
In addition, so regarding Grand Slam, there's also early plans for AEW to return next year to Arthur Ashe Stadium. But instead of making Grand Slam a TV taping, they're going to make it pay-per-view. In addition to that, ahead of a rumored 12 pay-per-view schedule for 2024, Bodyslam.net heard AEW is discussing running another one after Full Gear this year. The site cautions it's not set in stone, but December 29th has been mentioned as the potential date for what could be AEW's 8th pay-per-view this year. My last one, do y'all have anything to say about that before I do my last one before Ryback?
I think that
I
like Ryback, but if they go to 12 pay-per-views a year, I think that we'll see how much metal Tony Khan has in his booking. We'll see what he's made of. You know what I mean? Because booking 12 coherent pay-per-views a year is tough for anybody. So if he's able to do it and knock it out, then, good on him.
Yeah. Dave Meltzer is skeptical that SmackDown will remain on Friday nights when it moves back to the USA Network next year, because that's a low viewership night on cable. When all of WWE's new TV deals are finalized, Meltzer thinks there is a very good chance that one of Raw, SmackDown, or NXT will be put on Wednesday nights opposite AEW Dynamite.
NXT, if they move anybody, I don't see Monday Night Raw, the longest standing episodic television series in history, to Wednesday Night Raw. Absolutely not. I think this is one of those situations where the Meltzer verse is losing a little bit of his mind. I don't like.
Well, they said it before. Like I said last week in News and Rumors, that WWE is not married to keeping SmackDown on Fridays.
That's different than Raw, though. SmackDown's been on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays.
You said it could be any of them.
No, I would say NXT 1, then SmackDown, then Raw if they were going to move stuff around. I don't see Raw moving, period.
I would say they would move. I would say that they would move.
You have to get down. You can't be in my lap right now.
SmackDown to compete with Dynamite because it makes more sense because it's the first show. I agree they won't move Raw, but I think they move NXT to Fridays and leave Raw on Mondays and do SmackDown on Wednesdays. That makes the most sense. From a marketing standpoint, that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Friday is your least. Fridays are hard because people do things on Fridays. So you should put your least popular thing on Fridays, which would be NXT.
Yeah.
Well, really, it would be Raw, but. All right, our Ryback tinfoil hat moment of the week. We really need to make like a little, like have a little Ryback coming across the screen.
Yeah.
If you don't follow Ryback on TikTok, I highly recommend that you do. It is fucking hysterical. He does this little series where he pretends that he is a dirt sheet writer and like makes fun of like anything that Bleacher Report reports. He puts like a wig on and a hat and some glasses. Like it is.
He gets full on gimmick with it, doesn't
Dude,
he?
it's fucking hilarious. I mean, the man's like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but like his TikToks are fucking funny.
You watch Ryback's TikTok for wrestling content the same reason I watch TikToks for conspiracy theories. Not because they're viable, but because they make you giggle.
Yeah.
Make you giggle.
So, on the Ryback show, Ryback said someone in the gym once approached him in the shower and asked for a picture while he was in the middle of lathering up while he was lathering up my big guy body, scrubbing away. I've got soap on my little bodybuilder ass. Another person did something like that to Brock Lesnar once, and Brock almost killed him.
I don't think no one's going up to Ryback and go, "Hey, little Ryback, can I get a picture with you?"
Mm-hmm.
They would, yeah, no. He's, I think.
Well,
he's
no,
nuts.
his little bodybuilder breath. So the quote is, somebody asked
up, Sean?
for a picture while he was in the middle of it, lathering up my big guy body, scrubbing away. I've got soap on my little bodybuilder ass. Like that's like what he said on the show.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
I don't want to.
Thinking about Ryback
And little Ryback
Yeah,
getting sudsy on his little bodybuilder. Getting sudsy with the little Ryback.
Little Ryback getting sudden.
No,
See.
his little bodybuilder ass was getting sudsy.
His little bodybuilder ass was getting sudsy.
Oh, I thought he said something about the guy coming up and saying something about his little
No.
bodybuilder.
He was lathering up his big guy body, scrubbing away. I've got soap on my little bodybuilder ass, and a guy comes up and asks him for a picture.
That's awesome.
Supposedly, somebody did the same thing to Brock Lesnar once, and he almost killed him.
But here's the question, okay? They always say ask for the picture, right? Like, I don't think that's the opportunity with what they mean by ask for the picture. I don't think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, is that it?
That is all she wrote.
Jax,
Yes.
plug yourself. Tell everybody what you got going on.
Actually, I'm not going to plug myself tonight.
Oh, yeah.
There's a friend of mine, very close friend of mine. I won't give her name out.
Drop the link in the private chat one more time for me so I can make sure everybody sees it while you talk.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very good. A really close friend of mine's aunt was just diagnosed with colon cancer. And she's going to be going through chemo and everything else. She has a GoFundMe set up. I'm not saying I got to go donate. If you would, just share it. Help us get the word out about it, because you never know who could see it. Like, it could be that one random anonymous person. I mean, if you feel like you want to donate, thank you. But the primary goal is to share it and get the awareness out there. She's a sweet lady. I mean, she's close to my family. So this means that this is one of those, and usually I don't do this, but this is one that's actually real close to my heart.
I'll put the link in the chat there for everybody on Twitch. Al, you got anything new or exciting coming up?
I'm working on something that I decided to do last week. I just have to piece it all together. I'm going to start a new little series called Vince McMahon's Mustache Pedro. The premise is that Pedro is the catalyst for all of Vince McMahon's bad decisions. So I'm going to do that. Thanks to the queen herself, Katie Kinsey Bay. I got a Jimmy Uso for my birthday. So Jimmy will be making his heel support group debut. So I'm gonna put something together this week for that. You can get that exclusively on the Patreon for $5 a month. It's less than a cup of coffee. Look, I did a plug for you.
Look at that.
Look at that. You can find me elsewhere, TikTok, Instagram, the tweeters, Just a Girl 918 for some shenanigans that I'm really terrible about. I gotta get better.
The shenanigans.
The shenanigans.
Al, you said the stuff about the Patreon. Always with my shout outs, make sure you follow all my friends. Follow World Championship Wreckage on YouTube. Follow Creation World. Follow the Fanatics Network. That's Tim King and his bunch. Follow Devin and the Bloodline. Follow Wrestling with the Truth and Ted the Hillbilly Hill. Make sure you follow our boys at the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack. That's Jackson, Selfbet, and Bree. And Dad Hat. Make sure you follow all my friends. Follow everybody. She plugged the Patreon, like she said, less than $5. It's $5 a month, less than a cup of coffee. Join the Discord. Click the link in the description if you want to have direct access to me, the other hosts, the other producers from Rivet City Radio and Off the Top Network or Off the Top Media. That's the one. AngryLemonade.com/botch and share shots if you want to cop all that sweet merch. That Jeff Bezos money, though, if you have Amazon Prime, use your Prime Gaming subscription here. Give it to Wrestle Talk Wolfpack. Give it to Off the Top Media or Creation World. Make sure you always follow everybody on Rivet City Radio. That's Off the Top Media. So tonight, right immediately after us, we've got the table spot ready to take off. On Mondays, we've got Sorry for the Interruption with our boy Jax and Shadow over on Off the Top Media. Tuesday is stacked. We've got Nerdy News at 420, Delicious as Fuck, and NXT on tap. Wednesday is The Boom with Cam G. Thursday is Boss Bitch Trivia and Nate's Crew Retrospective over on Off the Top. Then Friday we wrap around Off the Top Media. It's got the Friday Night Review. So we got tons of fucking content. Make sure you're checking us out. Make sure you're following all of my friends. But that's it, guys. Anything left for the class? No?
No.
But now, as we close another episode of Botched, and Share Shots, take a minute. Thank you for listening. Remind you to go wherever you do anything on the internet. Like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again. Leave a comment telling me how great I am or how great Jax's glasses look. Either way, it helps the algorithm and helps find new listeners. If you're feeling really generous to be one of the VIP people, head over to patreon.com and donate to the Rivet City Radio Podcast Network. You get some fantastic swag. We get some fantastic guests. It's a win-win for NWA Senior Referee Jarrod Fritz, for my boy and brother, the Ginger Ninja Jaxbo, and for the Boss Bitch Al. I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.
So long.